Welcome back to Those Happy Places, the podcast that treats theme parks, rides, and attractions like literature. I'm Buddy Duquesne.
And I'm Alice White.
And today we'll be taking a look at one of our favorite rides that's about to go the way of the dinosaur. That is, figuratively, not literally.
I mean, it always has literally gone the way of the dinosaur, hasn't it, Buddy? We're talking, of course, of Jurassic Park the Ride, also known as Jurassic Park River Adventure.
That's a fair point, Alice. This ride is very dinosaur centric, I would say. Land of the Dinosaurs. A beautiful homage to the film by the same name, Jurassic Park. And this ride has a lot of importance to us personally, doesn't it?
That's right. I think we might have mentioned this on a previous podcast, but we once rode Jurassic Park the Ride 9 times in one day back in the early 2010s. Maybe.
Nine times, I think, consecutively, which is more impressive, like without stopping even once to do anything else.
That's true. They did make us exit the ride each time, but each time...
I believe that's because there's like a designated, like, you must get off here area. They wanted us to look at our photo, I think is what it was.
But then we would just run through the gift shop and run back around and get right back on the ride because it was like October and no one else was there. No one was riding a water park in October.
It wasn't even that particularly cold that day. I don't remember it being cold.
No, it wasn't cold. It was just way the off season.
It was just, very much the off season. So there was no crowd. And I don't believe that's a thing that will ever happen again, at least not for quite some time. This idea of a really off season day and this ride being kind of at the end of its life cycle and not very popular. It may never repeat. That's a special experience that we always get to hold with us, I think, which is cool.
Yeah, it was a really fun day and with really good friends. We were, fresh out of high school and being crazy. We were in high school.
I'm not sure what. We must have been in high school at the time.
And it was such a good day at the park. And you're right. I don't think that kind of thing can be experienced again. Not at Universal, definitely not at Disney. Now that these theme parks are getting so good at finding exactly what's popular and really constantly updating and constantly advancing.
Kind of harnessing the hype machine of that. To where they're always novel and exciting and people always want to be at them.
Exactly. Universal Studios used to be the not very populated theme park. When we were kids, no one went to Universal Studios.
Well, because there wasn't much to do there.
There wasn't much new to do there. And because they had the same rides for so long with very, very few updates and IPs that we did not care about as children. Like do you remember when they had a whole? This is Universal Studios Hollywood, of course. I want to clarify to our listeners.
Yes, those of you in Hollywood. Orlando, we have long had a very different experience with our Universal Studios.
Universal Studios was smaller, and they focused on strange IP choices. Like, do you remember the Flintstones themed like carnival game section?
Viva Rock Vegas, the ill-fated sequel to the Flintstones movie, which in itself was kind of a time capsule of the 90s. The Viva Rock Vegas arcade, I guess, or something like that. It was an entire themed area, one restaurant, 5 carnival games, all Bedrock themed.
But the carnival games were all pay to play. None of it was like, oh, look at this cool ride you can ride for free with your entry ticket. It was just an area for carnival games that we just used to get from one part of the park to the other. It was like a shortcut. Very much
just a shortcut. And that's so sad. Now it is not that.
No, now it is. They changed that part of the upper lot to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. They realized that they had a much stronger IP and could use that to bring in people. And now Universal Studios is so crowded all the time, just like Disneyland. Disneyland does the same thing. They're constantly updating, from bringing in Cars Land to changing the Tower of Terror to Guardians of the Galaxy to just to the new Star Wars land, Galaxy's Edge and Marvel Land. Like it's a constant updating to keep up with trends, which is happening, I think, at a faster rate than we've seen in decades past.
Yeah, in some ways things feel a lot less permanent. And it's funny that you should mention the kind of focus on strange IPs, right? We've got the Revenge of the Mummy, the ride. I mean, nobody remembers the Revenge of the Mummy very fondly. I really do like the first film, but Revenge of the Mummy with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but really badly CG'd as the Scorpion King, because at the time he was tied in as the Scorpion King in another film. They made a pretty good roller coaster based on an IP of a film that did not last. No, it did not stick around.
Same thing with Waterworld.
Oh man, the Waterworld ride.
The show that is so much better than the film that it's based off of, and so much more lasting.
The Waterworld wet and smoky stunt show.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's such a good show and will stand the test of time much longer than the movie will. Universal, has put its focus on, and you could see it too in the tram ride, where they've got a whole section of the tram ride dedicated to the special effects from the movie Earthquake, which came out so long ago that people don't realize that section of the tram ride is dedicated to a film.
For the longest time, I thought it was just an earthquake demonstration.
No, but it's literally based off of the film Earthquake, and their dedication to keeping the set alive for Whoville, for the live action How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which I still probably watch every other year or so, but it's not like a beloved all-time Christmas film.
No, and it's going to be replaced by an animated version this year. So it's strange to me the way that Universal holds on to pieces of its history that maybe are not so beloved, not so well liked. But the Jurassic Park ride and this river adventure, as it were, it is attached to something that is truly a classic.
Truly a classic, which when the ride was developed alongside the film, I discovered this on our research for this episode. The ride and the film were being developed at the same time. So the ride was only released 3 years after the film was. The film was released in 1993. The ride was open to the public in 1996. And Jurassic Park, the movie, was still at that time the highest grossing film of all time. It was the most commercially successful film until Titanic came out
in 97,
98. And so this was a hugely successful IP for Universal, and they capitalized on it right away. And it was still an iconic and popular ride. Sure, maybe not so much in the off season because of the water features, but it was still so important to to advertising and theming and stuff of the whole theme park until just a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was announced that there would be a major refurbishment that would include a re-theming of this ride from Jurassic Park to Jurassic World, which, when I think about it, Alice, does not sound like that huge of a deal.
It's not as dramatic as it's been made out to be. I think when I first heard they were closing Jurassic, I thought they were literally shutting the ride down altogether. And I was devastated. It's like, this ride is so fun and it's so iconic. And what on earth would you want to put in that space other than the Jurassic Park ride? Because even though it's old, even though the ride, opened in 1996, it's still good. It's still an icon. It's still thrilling. Like, why would you want to find out that they were just reskinning it and that maybe keeping the same structure? Like, we don't know if they're keeping the same structure, if they're going to change the type of ride it is. We just know that it is not going to be Jurassic Park anymore. It's now Jurassic World.
Yeah, I do believe I've seen some of the in progress photos. So the T-Rex will no longer be a T-Rex. It'll be Indominus Rex, which is a made-up dinosaur from the Jurassic World series that is not good, but I would say not nearly as iconic as the Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? Doesn't have that same panache, that same style.
I agree.
And so things like that, I think they're going to be kind of going over everything. This is not to say that this ride is without the need for a major refurbishment. It is weird in some ways, particularly the way some of the animatronics act, and then the way that sometimes things break down or don't really communicate effectively what's happening.
The falling car effect hasn't worked in like 8 years, maybe.
and the sparks that are supposed to come off of it, I could imagine that being very difficult to maintain, very expensive. So anyways, we're talking about Jurassic Park in a way, Jurassic Park the ride, that is, because it's got this really unique relationship to the film, in that it was developed in tandem with this movie that I guess was a guaranteed success. It seems to me like they knew what they had. It was
so much a guaranteed success that Steven Spielberg fought 3 other studios to buy the film rights to the book before the book had even dropped. Like, he paid $1.5 million for the rights to make the book into a film, but the book had not yet been released. He just trusted Michael Crichton that much and trusted that this would... So he already knew they wanted to make a film, and I guess Universal also just went, yeah, cool, time to make a ride also at the same time, before there was even a book. Developed.
Right. That's insane, that level of foresight, because as we were talking about before, it has not been clear to Universal what they should focus on ever. What's so impressive is that they managed to line up this property that hadn't even started to enter the public consciousness yet, but it became a huge hit as a book. It became a huger hit as a film, and lucky us that they were already working on this connected ride that would kind of complete the experience. It would invite you to visit a piece of Jurassic Park, which, Alice, I don't think is a thing that happened anywhere else where somebody was like, oh my God, this thing's coming up. We can make a ride out of it. It's going to be great. People are always going to love it. To the point where they're not replacing it. They're refurbishing it because the franchise is still thriving. I mean, quality of the film's notwithstanding, money-wise, incredibly thriving.
Right. It is any film that comes out with the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World IP attached to it is a guaranteed success. People are just still that into the idea of dinosaurs and theme parks, I suppose.
Dinosaur theme parks.
Which I would go to, for the record.
Oh, you would visit Jurassic Park if it were a real thing?
Of course I would. Of course I would.
Even what if the events of Jurassic Park the movie are a documentary? It's like a real thing that actually happened. would you still go to it?
So
and they still reopened.
So I was living in the world of Jurassic World, where so I walk into Jurassic World knowing that, because that's canon in the Jurassic World film, that Jurassic Park used to be a thing and they failed, but now it's better. Yeah, I would.
You'd still
go. Of course I would. Because the whole breaking down of the park security system and you know, the Indominus Rex or whatever getting loose, that happened like one time, but that had been a thriving theme park for it. That was not opening day we were seeing.
No,
it had been open for a while. So
in
like
Jurassic Park, you weren't seeing opening day; you were seeing months before opening day.
Right. So they had
didn't even get to open.
They had time to fix it.
They didn't, Alice. It became a volcano. Didn't you see the trailer for the second Jurassic World movie? I saw it. It became a volcano, Alice.
Oh, bummer. I still would have gone. I would have bid to be their opening day of Jurassic World.
Right.
Yeah. That's just who I am as a person. Now you know me.
I would have avoided it a lot because I don't know if you saw the trailer for the first movie, Alice, but people got picked up and killed by pterodactyls.
I saw the movie. I didn't need to see that. I actually did see Jurassic World in theaters, the first one.
Yeah.
And the only thing I remember very clearly about that scene where the pterodactyls are picking people up is Jimmy Buffett running away, double fisting margaritas. It's very good.
It is. It is very good. So all of this is to say that Jurassic Park was part of a calculated transmedia empire. And Transmedia is kind of our word of the day. So start that word of the day music. Transmedia refers to so Jurassic Park is this film that was so big that it reached beyond being simply an adaptation of a novel, of a popular novel. It branched out into a multi-layered, multimedia, multifaceted kind of behemoth, a thing that could not be stopped. I mean, not only was this the most successful film ever made in a box office sense, but it also included a slew of merchandise and video games. And do you remember that arcade game from the Chuck E. Cheese?
Of course I do.
That had the rumble seat, so it was like you were in the Jeep the whole time.
That was the best one.
It was the best, and it spawned, of course, a sequel novel and sequel films. And on top of it all, the thing that I think is like the coup de grace, the most impressive thing to come out of it all, is this theme park ride. Because Transmedia is about, it's a term that refers to a process where, and I'm quoting here, integral elements of fiction get dispersed systematically across multiple delivery channels for the purpose of creating a unified and coordinated entertainment experience. Ideally, each medium makes its own unique contribution to the unfolding of the story. So, in Jurassic Park, the book, you have a kind of slow burn thriller that is very scientifically minded and talks a lot about the nature of chaos and trying to control things that you don't understand. The film takes it in a different direction, kind of makes it more of a not schlocky, but yeah, kind of schlocky horror flick about running from dinosaurs, and then we kind of downplay those themes of not understanding things beyond our control and the chaos inherent in that. And then the video games are more run and gun, shoot dinosaurs types of things. So those are more actiony. They bring a different contribution to the unfolding of the story. And I think what's amazing about Jurassic Park's River Adventure is that it is canon to Jurassic Park, the film, and also that it has this unique way of bringing our expectations of living in the universe of Jurassic Park to life, because Jurassic Park is a theme park, and you can visit this theme park, at least in part, right there in Hollywood or Orlando. And as well as Osaka, Japan, Universal Studios Osaka. Now, my definition of transmedia came from Henry Jenkins, who is a professor of journalism, communication, and cinematic arts at USC. And I think that the important thing to note about transmedia is that it was coined in the early 2000s to refer to the early influence of digital media, such as websites or streaming video and other things like that, that allowed studios to kind of trickle out information and add smaller little stories to be kind of ancillaries to the major films or game releases. But lately, we've kind of broadened the term transmedia to mean anytime that storytelling is done beyond a singular form of a text, where just watching the movie isn't the complete experience. And I would argue that just watching Jurassic Park, the movie, is kind of incomplete without riding the Jurassic Park River Adventure at any of the places it exists. I think it completes the story to be drawn in and to be part of the breakdown of this theme park.
I agree. I think that what you're saying is that the parts of media like Jurassic Park, the film, can be complete on its own, but when added to in various transmedia, other media, expands and improves upon the story to the point where it's like better now that there's more to it, or that there's or just more fully complete.
Right. I would describe it not as an extension, which is like what a sequel might do. It might extend the story. It might keep telling it in the same direction. I would describe it as an expansion.
Okay.
Where the story is still being told. That same story is still being told, but kind of from a different perspective or through a different lens. And I think that's what the theme park ride provides, that, say, a sequel to the film or a reboot to the film doesn't necessarily do.
Okay.
So it by virtue of being a different kind of media that is also telling this story, but not the same story, just kind of a different side of that story, it expands the scope. It makes it more knowable. It adds details and information that are useful and exciting to an audience.
Right.
And I think that's what makes it transmedia.
Okay, yeah, I agree, and that was super, I think, intentional. When I doing research for this episode, while you were doing all the hard stuff, I found the archive of the original promotional page website for Jurassic Park: The Ride from 1996. And it's still, you could find it on the Wayback Machine. It still looks exactly the same. But it says here under the experience here, when they're, promoting, they say, get ready for this ultimate water adventure. Quote, guests experience up close encounters with lifelike gargantuan dinosaurs towering as tall as 5-story buildings and moving to within inches of their astonished faces. Guest board tour boats to cruise into the living, breathing, 3-dimensional world of Jurassic Park. It's literally what you were saying, exactly the intention of this ride was to pull people in, say, here you are actually part of the park, Jurassic Park. Not just, oh, you're riding a ride that is similar to Jurassic Park. They're saying, welcome to Jurassic Park. They open the big gates. You get narration, like you're experiencing being in the theme park.
Yeah, there are things about the ride that are kind of direct nods to the film, I would say, that are about making you feel the way that the film made you feel, such as the opening of the big gates, right? I mean, the big gates are such a big deal. I don't know why I love those big gates so much, but I do, and the opportunity to ride through them is huge. And then to turn the corner and see the brontosauruses for the first time, which is the first dinosaur that they see in the film, right? And the astonishment that you can feel as the John Williams music swells and the dinosaur lifts its head and lets out a...
Oh, that was very good.
And thank you. And then the baby like squirts you because it's a water ride.
It's so cute. For the record, Buddy, they are ultrasaurs, not...
Oh, those are ultrasaurs. Yes. My apologies. But anyways, it's a very similar sort of a moment. It's that moment that you're supposed to be like, oh, this is just like the movie.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is that it quickly goes from being just like the movie to being something that was on the fringe of the movie, something that was mentioned. So in the early stages of development, some art was provided to the filmmakers so that in the presentation room, while they're eating their lunch and discussing how the park is a bad idea, you see concept art of the river adventure, and it's like the exact raft. It's perfect. It's really good concept art. I will add a link to it in the show notes that we put out. But it's so cool to see that this art then gets translated to a thing you can go do. It was like, oh yeah, this was planned. This was going to be in the park. It might have already been built. You might have been able to ride it if the park were real, and now here you are in it. So it's like, it makes a lot of really interesting moves in that way. So you see dinosaurs that you don't see in the movie, like the hadrosaur, which is just not a movie dinosaur.
Right.
She's not in there. And
she pops out of the water and sprays water at you because, again, it is a water ride.
It's a water ride. So there are parts about it that are unique, right? It's this like idea that the river adventure would have been this long cruise through very calm waters where you would have spied dinosaurs kind of between rock formations and coming through vegetation. Like it feels very lived in and real. It tells its own side of the story. And it's this big thing that makes you think, wow, there's so much more to Jurassic Park than I thought. What else is there? And that's the beauty of Transmedia, is that it invites you to dive in some more to your favorite properties. Kind of imagine like the Harry Potter franchise and Pottermore, which I think is an excellent example of transmedia storytelling. It's like, hey, you want some more details? Because we have them, and here they all are.
We can't fit them all on screen, or
we can't fit all of them in the book. Can't fit them all on screen. So read the tie-in novellas, Quidditch Through the Ages, and Fantastic Beasts: Somewhere to Find Them.
Tales of Beetle the Bard.
Tales of Beetle the Bard, and visit Pottermore.com.
Get sorted. You can get a wand. You can get sorted into your Ilvermorny houses. You become part of the story then.
Yeah, and then as well, you can go visit the theme park armed with all of that knowledge, and each experience is enhanced for it existing that way. They don't all tell the same story. They add information and bits and allude to things on the edges of each other's stories so that the whole thing becomes more cohesive. And I think Jurassic Park the Ride does this in spades. Down to the details on the rafts, which have a first aid kit and a flashlight worked into the theming on them. Like, you're like, oh yeah, this could be like a real kind of wildernessy raft that we could be in. It all feels like they were thinking things through. And then there's this part at the end. Alice, before we keep talking about this, we should talk about the story, the plot, the text of the Jurassic Park River Adventure.
Sure.
Just really briefly, so that our audience knows exactly what we're talking about when we talk about some of these other things.
Sure. So the plot of the ride is you get in your river raft. The pre-show involves a safety video on how to, deal with dinosaurs on the shores of the river that you're about to raft down, how to stay safe in your boat. It is narrated, but the safety video stars and is narrated by Richard Attenborough, or John Hammond himself is welcoming you to the park. You get on your boat, you go down the river, the big doors open, and you say, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." You see some ultrasaurs. You go under a cave, then you see some stegosauruses, and then you turn a corner, and there's the hadrosaur, and the hadrosaur pops up, and you're supposed to go into Hadrosaur Cove. Right in front of you, you see the entrance, Hadrosaur Cove. You've been in Stegosaurus Springs, now you're going to Hadrosaur Cove. But instead, your boat gets knocked off course. Sometimes, see, and this is the thing, is that I think there's supposed to be a boat blocking the way into Hadrosaur Cove, but sometimes the boat's not there. And this is part of what we were talking about. Maybe the ride needs a little refurbishing, and on certain bits that don't necessarily certain animatronics or mechanical effects that just don't work all the time. But you don't go into Hadrosaur Cove. Instead, you go in through an open gate into the backstage area of Jurassic Park, and there's all this machinery and equipment and extra boats and bags of food and stuff like that. And there to your right, you see the Velociraptor enclosure, where the electric fence has been busted open and it's sparking, and you're like, oh no, the Velociraptors are loose. Now we're in the plot of Jurassic Park.
Oh no, now we're in the plot.
So then, if you're a fan of the film, then you recognize that the Velociraptors are loose. You start hearing radio transmissions from park employees saying, this dinosaur's loose, that one's loose, the T-Rex is gone. The park is in disarray. Everybody, people are screaming. We gotta go. We're gonna evacuate everyone from the level platform ahead. And you go up.
I need to stop you right there, Alice, because the level platform ahead is one of the greatest things ever added to any theme park ride ever. Because I don't know what it means, but it makes a lot of sense. It feels very comforting.
I think it's supposed to be you go up to the level platform ahead, you're going to get airlifted out, like a helicopter is going to come save you kind of thing.
Oh, I see. I always thought that it was, okay, so there's a cool thing about that hill as you're being lifted up, right? The guy comes over the radio, he's like, we're gonna get you up here and we're gonna evacuate you on the level platform ahead. And there's a pretty great, and meanwhile raptors are
hopping out at you,
dropping down from the ceiling.
Very exciting. Cool. Inches from your face.
Just inches from your astonished face. And and there's a mural, a large painting of what seems to be the rest of the tunnel.
Oh, it's super cool looking.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, cool, we're going to keep going up into that. So I always thought that might end at the level platform, but then something changed and you don't end up.
You do
on
a
that.
Small drop into a machinery-filled room. The tons of steam pipes and loud alarms and flashing lights, and the T-Rex head right above you trying to bite down through the pipes at you.
Really impressive animatronic
really
there
cool.
that is huge and lifelike and has a tongue
that
which
wags
is really cool.
like it's trying to get at you. It's very cool. Yeah. So then all the alarms are going off and the steam pipes are breaking and there's all this steam everywhere, and then you hear the voice saying life support systems will terminate in 10 seconds. And then there's a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then all of a sudden a giant T-Rex appears directly in front of you. Not just the head of a T-Rex, an entire T-Rex emerges from a waterfall in front of you.
Yes, it is so
and
cool.
roars at you, and then you go on an 84-foot drop, very, very steep drop, and into the waiting lagoon below, where you get soaking wet. Pretty much every seat, no one is safe. And that's it. That's the end. You do a huge drop, and then The ride
just ends. There's no epilogue, except there is a fun Easter egg. The can of Barbasol that had the embryos in it is in the river.
It's floating in the river next to the boat, like right before you get off.
Which is a fun nod to the film as well, and it really does kind of connect the whole thing. Hey, Alice, I gotta stop you right there because I got a question about the line that the life support systems will terminate line specifically. Do you mind if we have an aside for a second?
Do you want to step into my office?
Yeah, can
for
we
like
do
a
that?
second?
Just for a second.
Yeah. Okay. Just here. Hold on. Okay. What's your question?
Alice, what do you think life support systems will terminate means?
You know what? I don't know. That's a line I expect to hear on a space ride. But we're presumably still on Earth. And
I always kind of took it as the that amino acid that the dinosaurs can't produce on their own. From the movie, there's this thing. It's I forget the name of the thing, but without it, they will die, and they engineered it so the dinosaurs can't produce it on their own.
But life finds a way.
Finds a way, right? So they get past that. It's the Lysine Contingency. Thank you, I got it. And so that's if they ever escape, that they would die. I always took it as that, like the dinosaurs will all die in 10.
Oh my gosh, I never thought about that.
Which seemed like a lot to me. Like, how did they get that down to a countdown? Does that mean the T-Rex is dying on top of you?
Its dying scream as you plunge,
as you escape
to your escape. I don't know. Why? You know what? Because it's been a really long time since I've seen the Jurassic Park movie. I don't remember that. What did you call it? Lysine?
The Lysine Contingency.
I barely remember that, and I mostly remember Jeff Goldblum. And Laura Dern because she's the best.
Right.
That's interesting. And that's a weird thing to think about. Is that something they did in the film? Did they kill all the dinosaurs? Did you see Jurassic Park 3?
No. No, I think the Australian guy is like, we could always enact the Lysine Contingency.
Very good.
Thank you. And Richard Attenborough's like, oh, I won't do that. I'm too British.
Also very good.
Thank you, spot on Attenborough. And so they rule it out, like, absolutely not. They're not going to enact the contingency. But then, like, everybody else in the park dies. So, like, I think the assumption is all of the dinosaurs will die. But
it's like a fail-safe.
Like, exactly, right. So if nobody's there to maintain the dinosaurs, all the dinosaurs die. But the whole tagline of Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, is something has survived, because some of the dinosaurs did get off the island, and some of them did survive the Lysine Contingency. So I always took it as it wasn't going to work anyways, because life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
Right, and they had dinosaurs that were breeding, so you never know. So that was just my pet theory on what life support failure means.
That's interesting. I never thought about it. I just assumed that it meant for us, and that we had to get the heck out of there.
Oh, that they would stop supporting our lives.
That's what I always
How are
assumed.
they doing that?
I don't know.
How are they doing that for
I never thought about it. I was a child. I just went, oh no, we got to get out of here. Life support systems are going to be terminated. I guess because, like I said, in my head, that's a thing that they say in like space movies.
So, Alice, to kind of bring it back to what it is we are supposed to be talking about, the plot of this ride is not very original.
No. It's not
very original at all, I would say. In fact, I would say that it's got at least 3 rides just like it at Universal Studios, or at least used to have at least 3 rides just like it in Universal Studios.
Right. It's very concept alone is a pretty it's a pretty significant trope, I think, in theme park rides. The idea of here is a ride, oh no, something's gone wrong.
Yeah, something's gone wrong is, I could write a dissertation on something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong is a very common trope, right? It's, here we go on this thing that's supposed to go normally. Oh no, it's gone wrong. And it happens every time. Like, the characters in pre-show are always talking about how this is normal and everything's going fine until something goes wrong. And it's like one thing, right, that makes the whole thing spiral out of control.
Right. Usually
catastrophic thing, but it starts the plot. It's the inciting incident.
I can think that the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey does it, and the Simpsons ride does it. And
right, everything is fine on the Simpsons ride until Bob is like, aha, I've taken over the Simpsons ride, and something is about to go wrong.
And then
Harry Potter and the
everything
Forbidden Journey.
Oh, we're just going to take you on a cute little tour through Hogwarts. Oh no, it's a dragon.
Something's gone wrong. My favorite example at Universal Studios is the now defunct Terminator 2, the movie, the ride.
That was the very next example I was going to
It's my favorite because it spends so long being normal. The Cyberdyne Institute, like shareholders meeting that you're attending or whatever, is normal for about 15 minutes, Alice. It's like, oh, hi, I'm a normal lady doing normal things. Oh, hey, here's this normal presentation. Here's a video that's really normal. Everything's normal here at Cyberdyne. And what's great about it is that it spends all of that time welcoming you into the universe of Terminator 2.
And that experience was so good because it also did, it branched, it came so like in your face. It's not just screens. Here are actors running through, here are all of these like really cool effects, and yeah, it's super immersive. But oh man, I miss that. I miss it so much. I don't even know what else to say. It was super good.
The ride.
Universal does a really good job with immersion. Like, here you are. Yeah. The Simpsons ride is the same thing. You're waiting in line to ride a really cool new roller coaster at Krusty Land at this theme park. And while you're in line, you're seeing maps of Krusty Land and ads for other attractions in Krusty Land, and you don't realize that something's gone wrong until you're about to board you're like just about to board the car. And
right. And
then
even
Bob
then things only slightly have gone wrong. Until Bob shows up. And that's a strength, I think. It's a strong way to tell a theme park story. To say like, become invested in this normal universe where things are fantastic, they are beyond your everyday, but things are going to be safe and limited, and everything's going to go according to someone else's plan. So it's cool because it implies an experience, right?
Yeah.
It implies a tour or a ride or something. And then it implies that the ride that you're on
is unique,
is more extreme than intended. Yeah, it's unique. So it really has a cool welcoming effect for the audience. Disney doesn't do this very much. I would say that almost none of the rides have something go wrong.
Star Tours.
Star Tours is going exactly according to plan. Remember, Captain Rex is lying to you.
Oh, yes, that's right. Go listen to our backup.
The Jungle Cruise is not going wrong. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is going wrong.
That one is...
Or the Temple of the Forbidden
definitely going wrong.
It is going wrong.
You are not supposed to go that way. And yeah, and you're like, oh, we're here on a really great expedition. It's already
a little dangerous seeming, but
you look into the eye of the
wrong.
idol, and then things go wrong.
It does go very wrong. So, but it's a rare occurrence. I don't think Pirates of the Caribbean is going wrong. Haunted Mansion is not going wrong. Splash Mountain is not.
Remember how I said before that Indiana Jones, the Indiana Jones equivalent in Walt Disney World is the dinosaur ride? That one is going wrong. That one definitely goes wrong. You've got a rogue scientist. You're just supposed to we've got this time machine technology. You can go back and see some dinosaurs. And then a rogue scientist is like, and while you're there, bring back a specimen. And then he's like, I'll tell you how to do it and I'll program your car and it'll be awesome. And then the boss is like, what are you doing? And he's like, nothing. And that's, something's gone wrong. Yeah. Cause
something has gone wrong.
You're in this like immersive space. You're in what looks like a museum, and the lady is telling you about this totally normal journey you're about to have, and then something goes wrong.
And I think it's effective because audiences are savvy, and they're like, ooh, woo, ride time, and first time riders might not have the buy-in right away. They might be like, oh yeah, I'm sure this will be like very fun. And if everybody is saying how normal it is, that changes their expectations. They'll be like, oh wow, this will be a very normal trip through Gringotts, the bank. Which I'm sure will be very, very fascinating. We can look at some stacks of money. And then when something goes wrong, it provides a little bit of a thrill. It suspends more disbelief. It scoops out a big piece of disbelief and is like, nope, something's gone wrong, and this is special and dangerous, which I think is a great thing for an experiential ride, right? Versus a movie where things go wrong for our characters all the time, but we know it's a story that will end a certain way. In a ride, it's us that things are going wrong for, so we feel that more strongly.
Right. What other tropes do you think that the Jurassic Park, the ride, the experience, what other do you have other tropes that it falls into?
There are a few. I would say that the presence of a drop as the climax of the ride is a pretty big trope. And we may talk about this on another episode. But having that there and kind of syncing up the end of the ride to that is like a bit of a trope.
Finale, like a crash finale.
Yeah, it's a big finale that ends in a little victory lap.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time in drop rides and rides that have drops.
Yeah, that could probably be its own episode.
That's a biggie. I would say a big thing about Jurassic Park, the ride, that I dislike, that is unfortunately a trope, is unavoidable water effects. And I mean this wholeheartedly. I think they remove you from the immersion of the ride.
Yes.
There's a thing in Jurassic Park the ride that is pretty good as far as unavoidable water effects, which is the spitting dinosaurs. I was gonna say that's the weak one.
Because
they spit out warm water, Alice.
It's disgusting.
I think those work because at least they're in universe, and at least dinosaurs spitting is a thing from the movie.
That's okay. You're right. That's true. I was going to say having them spit right at you, like, haha, we got you, is a little like, oh, guess what? You're on a ride.
Well, they would try to if they were actually dinosaurs.
That's true. If they were spitting acid or whatever at you, like they do in the movie. You're right. Yeah. No, you're right. Absolutely.
So that's one. I really dislike. So in the cave there are water drips that you can't get around because you're sandwiched between other people. And things like that on water rides are really, really common. Even just like river rapid rides, like the Grizzly River Run, where there's like dripping pipes,
or like the geyser that goes off and shuts off like right before you get there. The Grizzly River Rapids does that, and so does Jurassic
Bigfoot
Park.
Rapids.
There's Bigfoot Rapids. Jurassic Park does it too. There's like a big geyser goes off of water.
And it's like, oh no, you're gonna get drenched.
Then it just mists in the air, so you just get like a little wet.
You get uncomfortable.
That's a little annoying.
Yeah, it's like, how dare they? Why? Like, I'm gonna get wet at the end. Just let me get wet at the end. So those tropes are design tropes. They're not really storytelling tropes. And because the ride itself is only about 5 minutes long, there isn't a lot of time to tell a story. But I think using a drop as an escape and a climax in this finale is a pretty huge trope that, Alice, I think we should set aside for another time.
I agree.
Well, Alice, it sounds like our time talking about Jurassic Park River Adventure, or Jurassic Park the Ride, has come to an end.
But before we go, we wanted to ask you, the listeners, for some input, for some participation. We love hearing from you, and we love how many wonderful Twitter interactions we get. But we want to hear your voices on this podcast. If you want to be a part of the podcast, or if you have a ride idea you want to pitch, or an episode idea you want to hear, send us an email or a voicemail. You can record yourself talking on an MP3 and send it to Buddy or to me. Buddy's email address is buddy.duquesne@gmail.com, and I'm alicewhitepodcast@gmail.com. Email us with any ideas or submissions you might have. We want to hear from you. We want to involve you in the process.
Yeah, we would be so excited to have kind of a weekly segment where we had at least one listener call in and be like, "Hey, Buddy and Alice, I got this great ride idea. I was thinking about it over the weekend. Here's what it is." We will take recordings of any quality, but do try to keep them at a reasonable length. We do want to be economical with our time.
Yeah, and we want to hear from you. Even if you don't want to send your voice, drop us an email or find us on Twitter. I am at AliceWhiteTHP for those happy places.
And I'm at Buddy_Duquesne. Remember, guys, Duquesne is spelled DUQUESNE.
And if you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thosehappyplaces, where we're always having conversations about theme parks and rides and attractions. Come join the fun.
Yeah, and Alice, did you know that our listeners can also find us on YouTube?
That's right.
Our YouTube channel is great. It has all of the episodes that we've recorded so far, and I've arranged them in a playlist for you. So you can start on episode 1 and listen all the way through without clicking play a second time. So just search for us on YouTube, Those Happy Places. We are the first result every time. Alice, did you know that if our listeners are listening to us right now, that they're hearing our theme music?
Is our theme music Golden Gate by the California Feetwarmers featuring Phil Alvin?
It is. And did you know that you could find the Feetwarmers on their website, www.californiafeetwarmers.com?
I did know that, but I hope that our listeners do too. Go check them out. They're awesome.
Alice, did you know that there was additional music in this episode?
Did you put additional music in this episode? I'm sure it's great.
I added it, and it was all done by Podington Bear, who made all of his work available on the Free Music Archive. Wow. You can check that out at freemusicarchive.org.
Well, I think that's all for us tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
Thank you again, and we hope you return to those happy places.